Hi, I'm Chris from Inside the Recording Studio podcast. In last week's episode, Jody and I did a lot of talking about API gear and specifically the 550A EQ. So in this Tuesday tip video, we're going to take a look at and listen to the 550 EQ from API. Okay, one more time, we find ourselves in Logic Pro, and for today's demonstration, I am using a drum groove that I have created using Toontrack Superior Drummer 3. And I'm a big fan of using drums when I'm auditioning EQs or any kind of processing because it gives me a wide frequency range to kind of listen to. I got the low end of the kick, the sizzle of the overheads and the hi-hats, and some of that mid-range punch with the snare. So I like doing that. So that's what we're using that today. For the EQ, I am using the Slate version of the 550. One thing that you'll notice here that I believe I mentioned in the podcast as well is that this has an additional mid-frequency band. The original doesn't. It just has three. It has the low frequency, the mids, and the highs. But this is just a duplicate band, and it just gives us a little bit extra flexibility, and we're living in the digital world, so hey, we can do whatever we want, right? More controls that we have is the filter that cuts off at 50 at the low end and at 15K. We can adjust those bands. They are what they are. It's 50 on the low end and 15K on the top. Great to use them clean up, and I'll demonstrate that here in a second as well. We also have the low frequency slope here that can be set to a shelf as opposed to the bell, which is the default. And same thing with the high frequency. We can set that to a shelf as well. So I am going to play this groove here for you first, and then I'm actually going to start fiddling with these knobs and tweak some, and we're going to hear what we can do fairly quickly using the 550 style EQ. So here is our groove without any processing. I'm just kind of going through the API console emulation here as well, which in fairness on just a drum bus isn't adding all that much, but here we go. Okay, that's starting to sound pretty good with just small adjustments. I added some high shelf at 7K. I took out a little bit of mud at around 600, just 2 dB, and I boosted 100 hertz, about 2 dB as well. The filter is left off. I want all those frequencies there. Now, I've done similar things on the individual kit pieces. Let me show you what I've done. On the kick, I am not shy. I'm adding 4 dB of 5K. Just add a little bit more of the click. I'm scooping out a bunch, 6 dB of 400, all that mid-range rumble that I don't like in a kick. I am adding some low end here at 50, just 2 dB. I'm not using any kind of filter, and the shelves are just in their bell formation. I'm also using some on the snare. Again, I am adding some high end here, about 7K, 2 dB. I am adding a little bit of 600 here just to add some body to the snare. I am using the shelf, and I'm also using the filter because I didn't feel like there was anything above that 15K or below 50 that needed to be present here. The last adjustments I did were to the hi-hats. I am adding some more 5K. I am adding some 800 here just to add some body to the hi-hats. And again, the shelf, and I am using the filter here because I felt, again, that nothing above 15K or 50 needs to be present in my hi-hat track. So let me start with these off, and then I'll turn them on and toggle them back and forth, and you're going to hear some great examples of what the API EQ can do. Here we go. Sounds pretty good to me. I'm going to, as we end up here, I'm going to toggle the processing I did on the drum bus as a whole as well. So you see where we started from and where we ended up with some fairly, simple adjustments, but it just sounds really, really good and musical to my ear. So here we go, starting with them on. And there we go. There's the 550 EQ from API, or in this case, Steven Slate's. It's quickly becoming one of my favorite EQs to use. I love the way it sounds. So now you can go and try it out too. Thanks for watching and have an awesome day.